Hi, I'm Pat Kiernan. This is Pat's Papers. We go through the nation's newspapers every weekday morning to thin it out, to cut through the clutter, to give you some of what we think is most relevant for you to read in the morning. Here's some of what we found for you today. It is the photo op of all photo ops. The Washington Post and most major papers across the U.S. feature a photo of the president-elect, and three past presidents gathered in the Oval Office. You have to go back to 1981 to find the last time that all of the living past presidents gathered in the Oval Office. Other papers with a wider view of the same scene, as here in the Charlotte Observer. The headline there is Power Lunch, and the New York Post goes with the front page headline, Club Prez. Papers across the country are ramping up their coverage ahead of the Obama inauguration. LA Times reporter Peter King making his way to Washington, checking on key issues for Americans along the way. In Cairo, Illinois, he reports on the economic slowdown. The once prosperous town was written up by Obama in his book, The Audacity of Hope, as a microcosm of America. There's news about the Bushes in the Dallas Morning News. The first stop for the outgoing first family will be Midland, Texas, his boyhood home. The town square will be the venue for a welcome home rally. Two more Obama stories. He's been using the phrase shovel ready a lot recently. This means an infrastructure project that could create jobs immediately without a long approval process. The Washington Post tries to figure out where that term originated. Turns out the electric utility National Grid created a website years ago called shovelready.com. The idea there was to promote quick redevelopment of old industrial sites. And from the New York Times, Mr. Obama's lawyers and security people have all told him he should get rid of his Blackberry because the messages will eventually become part of the public record. He considers it one of his last remaining direct links to the outside world, and he is pushing hard to keep it to become the first president on email. In the Wall Street Journal this morning, a huge corporate scandal in India. The chairman of the big technology outsourcing company Satyam admits that he made up key financial results. And it sounds like one of these things that started quite small, but had to grow bigger with each quarter. He admitted in a letter that it was like riding a tiger and not knowing how to get off without being eaten. Also in the Journal today, Walt Mossberg with a great review for a new computer backup device called ClickFree. The key, he says, is the software is built into this hard drive, so you plug it into your computer. Once it's set up, whenever you plug it in, it just automatically pulls the files you need out of your computer, so you don't have to worry about not having a backup somewhere. The Philadelphia Inquirer's front page includes a story about astronomers using a high-altitude balloon to detect very faint sounds in space. They detected what they describe as intense static coming from all directions. This finding could help add detail to our understanding of what happened in a murky period of history, the first billion years after the Big Bang. A story from Canada making its way to Utah. Canadian authorities have charged two leaders of a small community in British Columbia with practicing polygamy. The Salt Lake Tribune reports the charges come along with a debate in Canada about whether constitutional protection of religious freedom includes the right to marry more than one person if that marriage is something that's endorsed by your religion. While we're in the West, the Oregonian in Portland reports highways that connect Oregon to southwest Washington state were cut off because the rain was so heavy the past few days. Rivers are rising and flooding could be the next problem. In Casper, Wyoming, a front page story about Yellowstone National Park. Scientists have recorded 500 earthquakes in the past 10 days. The immediate concern whenever this happens in the nearby areas is, does this mean a volcanic eruption is likely? Experts say the volcano alert level remains normal. The BCS National Championship game is tonight, Oklahoma versus Florida. The Oklahoman has a preview on its front page this morning, boasting of 12 wins and 18 Orange Bowl appearances. Coverage is in the Florida papers as well, just as enthusiastic. The Sun Sentinel devotes most of its front page to football and the Gators. The White House has fallen on tough economic times. No, not that White House, this one. An Atlanta real estate big shot has built a huge replica of the White House for himself. He's been living in it for a while, but now that his business is struggling, he is selling his White House. A couple of worthwhile items for your home. The focus of the home section in the Washington Post this morning is your linens, including some tips on organizing your linen closet and on making your linens last. One tip is that you shouldn't keep other stuff in that closet. Put the vacuum cleaner or your paint can somewhere else because those items will shorten the life of the fabric. There's a helpful feature in the New York Times home section. The Times looks at a bunch of options if you're looking for a new desk for your house or apartment. Writer Penelope Green says her home office, in quotes, until now was an old table, and it was time to upgrade. Finally, the Times has a report on the comeback of the mustache. The headline is "Inching its way back onto the lip." The report points out that manscaping has become quite popular as men carefully trim their beards and often remove their body hair. But the story says, the beard's upstairs neighbor, the mustache, has had a bumpier ride in trying to shake its mid-70s image. And those are just some of the headlines this morning. Thanks for joining us for Pat's Papers. Go to patspapers.com, scroll down on the main page, and you will see links to the individual newspapers where these stories were published. You can read them for yourself there and read more from any one of those newspapers.